I'm Justin Davis, and this is Drone Camp's RC. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis, and I have a new review here for you today. This is the RXT 219. This is a night flyer, guys, and it's ready to fly for around 180 bucks. Wait a minute, bind and fly. What am I talking about? Ready to fly. It does not come with a radio, guys. You have to bind up your own. You can get it PNP, which means you can get it plug and play, which means that there is no receiver on here. You can also get it bind and fly. So it comes two ways, bind and fly. I got the FrSky version, also FreeSky for you guys who like to say it that way. FlySky receiver is also available. I believe the FrSky version is like $198 for the XM Plus on there, and with the FlySky it's $189. So there you go as far as the price goes. But I was able to take this quad on a road trip this weekend with me because fortunately the West Coast Throwdown happened last week. There was a lot of FPV racing, freestyle, and racing events, including X Class. If you haven't seen X Class yet, it's a super large new class that's emerging all across the state. So new chapters are opening up, and you can check out their Facebook page online. I'll try to put a link for X Class down below. But let's talk about this RXT 219 because when I whipped this out at the showdown, lots of pro racers and novices alike were pretty impressed with the LED setup on this quad and the power setup on here. We've got 40 amp ESCs, a 6S capable, 2308, 2500 kV motors with a little bit of blue bling there. And I'm running the Cyclone 5051s on here because they are 2306 motors, and I didn't want to run a super wide cord on here because I didn't want it to be sucking too much of the battery out. Now, I did not test it on 6S, but if you want to fly this little guy on 6S, it will be an absolute beast and a monster. You also get 4 bolts on top to release the top plate, which is a great trend right now. A lot of people love that. You get a 5.8 right-hand circular polarized pagoda antenna in the back, and that's just held up with a little zip tie right there. It is movable, goes over to your VTX, and your VTX is running on 5.8, and it is switchable between 25, 100, and 400, I believe, and all the way up to 600 milliwatts. So that's a really nice transmission on that one. I zip tied up my antennas in the back right there. You can spread them a little further apart to get a little bit better reception. But what's so cool about this quad is the fact that it does have LEDs on the top and the bottom. And I'll show you those all lit up in just a second. But what's also really cool is the fact that, look at this, they're plug and play. So if you landed really hard or crashed and broke one of these, you can get a replacement one and just plug in a new one. So very, very cool setup. You actually have 4 stacks in the middle here, and everything is dampened, which is really nice. You got those 40 amp ESCs on the bottom level. The next level up, you've got an SD card for black box. And this was also interesting. They have this flipped over, so it is flipped over inside Betaflight. And this is usually on the bottom, but since you have this harness right here, they couldn't do that. And up next, almost to the top, the VTX right here with your switchable power, band, and channel ranges right there with those 2 buttons. And the next level up, that very top level, just above the VTX, that's where the LED board is located. And you can change all of the LED colors inside Betaflight as well. And it came with Betaflight 3.3 on there. So just go down to the LEDs tab, and you can make these LEDs actually do all kinds of stuff. Dance, strobe, like move in and out, and all kinds of really cool stuff. So also responding to the throttle, and you have 2 more LEDs on the very back which also respond to the throttle, which is kind of neat. You can also turn that on and off. You can go as crazy as you want with these LEDs, but this one's all about night flying. If you want to do some line of sight night flying with it in stabilized mode, this guy is super bright when you turn out the lights. Or if you want to fly it during the day, when you plug this guy in, even during the day, the lights are super bright top and bottom. Most of the guys at the race this weekend were making comments on how cool this was, that it already came set up with top and bottom LEDs, almost like more of a professional type of rig. And the way it's set up, it's actually really, really well built. It's one of the more well built ones that I've seen come out of China just recently, with also with replaceable arms and that super thin and narrow, low profile type of frame build here. It's not a unibody, but if you want to get replaceable arms for it, you break an arm, you can do that, which is nice. Now I want to show you the fun part about this quad. It is definitely a night flyer, and like I said, if you want to night fly this, you could do it line of sight, but if you want to FPV night fly this, you're going to have something like the Runcam Night Owl. I'll try to put a link down below for that. lets you see in the dark and fly in between trees. It's pretty amazing. But what's really cool about this quad, everyone loved how bright it was. When I plugged it in the first night that I got to the West Coast Showdown, I showed them these two little push buttons right here, and they both do different things. The back one is for the LED color. You can change through a variety of different colors. Red here, green. You can change it to blue. You can change it to yellow. You can change it to magenta, and so on. There's the magenta, and even back to white. And there's also another button on here. The forward button is going to change your mode, so you can go from sort of solid LED to this like wild crazy strobe effect, and it looks like a dance club, but in the air flying line of sight it looks really cool. And if you want to go back to solid LED color, you can do that as well. But a lot of options on here without even having to go into Betaflight and program things. Now, I did not try to program them inside Betaflight, so I can't totally confirm that they work inside Betaflight. I just didn't have time to do that, but it does look really cool, and a lot of people really thought this was an impressive quad. And after they actually saw it fly, they were also impressed with the way it flew, because it did sound really clean and it had zero vibes in the air. So let's go ahead and do a line of sight flight test with it. Alright, and also you guys get to see the West Coast Throwdown course, the race course out there. Pretty cool little course. And we're going to go ahead and get this guy up in the air. They're doing some raffles behind us, but man, look at that punch out. That's a 4S 1300 I have on here, so nice and zippy with these 2306 motors, 40 amp ESCs. This is like a higher end quad, something more like the $400 range that you'd expect. And the coolest thing about this one was the fact that I did plug into Betaflight, set up my mode switches, and within 5 minutes after binding up my receiver, checking my channel maps inside Betaflight, this is what you see after about 5 to 10 minutes of setup. I didn't change any of the PIDs. We're flying it all stock right here. I've got that 4S 1300 on it, and you know what you see is what you get, and it is very smooth and responsive on the throttle, and I love that. Even on 4S, I think on 6S this quad would be a beast. It would be an absolute beast on a 6S battery. And if you want to put some lower kV motors on here, you could have a nice setup for some sort of distance range flying if you decide to do that. But a lot of options with this frame too. It does look like a lot of the other more popular frames out there. It's not an exact clone by any means, but they did spend a lot of time wiring up the LEDs and getting that board up on top for you guys. But nice and punchy, it feels really good, and it feels like a freestyle animal. If you're into freestyle, this can go either way. It can be a racer or it can do freestyle. So honestly, it felt really good on the sticks, and I was flying without my little molded thumb couches, I call them, on my sticks. So I was just flying bare sticks right here, and still it felt really responsive. Almost lost it into the rocks right there. There's a bed of rocks right in front of me, but where it really shines is in FPV. This is going to be great. I have the RunCam 3S on there as well, and we'll take that out, get some footage with that, and I'll also show you some of what the camera looks like. So let's go out to a nice little perch and sit up on the perch and fly off the mountain for you guys. Here we go. Okay, let's go ahead and fire up the quad, and let me show you what this is going to do. Now, I've got a 4S 1300 on here, and we are going to show you just how nimble of a freestyle quad this can be. Now, 2306 motors generally are battery eaters. If you don't have a thin prop on there, if you put a wider cord prop on there, you're going to eat up and draw up a lot of amps really fast. So you can see I'm already using up some amps, but when I release on the throttle a little bit, the voltage goes back up. So depending on how good your battery is, you're going to get some sag on 2306s. But if you're lighter, sort of mid stick, sort of somewhere around half stick, you're going to get a little less sag. But you know, you can spec like 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes out of a good brand new battery, 90 to 100 C rating. And keep in mind also, this is the first time I've flown this spot and the first time I've actually FPV'd this quad, so give me a break on some of the flying here. But I'm just sort of feeling out the environment here for you guys, and trying not to fail safe off the side of this mountain so I don't have to go walking for it. But the XM Plus does really well, so you have a pretty good range. It's like a full range receiver. It's about just a little bigger than your
fingernail, so pretty nice. Also diversity antennas on those receivers, working for Frsky radios. This quad really does perform really well, and I say that because it feels like something like I would have built. If you blindfolded me and then didn't let me see what quad it was, and I took off in the goggles and flew this for the first time, I couldn't distinguish it from something that I built. But what I was really impressed with was the VTX on there. That 600 milliwatt really penetrates through the trees, and even when I go down and low to the ground, look at this, it doesn't really break up a whole lot, even having those trees in between me and the quad. So I think the VTX on it's really good. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Runcam 3S on here and check out some of the true color that this camera sees. There is a little bit of fisheye there. I can see, you know, the world looks pretty round up there once you get up nice and high. And some people like this camera, some people don't like this camera, but for $100 and 1080p and 60 frames per second, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's a little bit bigger than the GoPro Session. A lot of people at the West Coast Showdown were asking me if it was the same size. It's actually a little bit bigger, so we're gonna have to wait for some TPU mounts for our quads, and that's why, as you saw in this review, that mine's actually sitting on just a little couch, a little TPU couch. But you can do that in the meantime. If you have a 3D printer, you can print yourself a little couch or find one online. It's pretty universal, and just kind of run your screws through it. And mine didn't line up, but I just threw a zip tie around the back part, totally fine. And this is what the footage looks like. So there's not a lot of jello, even though I don't have the back of it screwed down. It's just held down by a zip tie. So run sort of a battery strap around your Runcam 3S, and this is the kind of footage you can expect. So pretty decent. And the TPU mounts don't cost a lot. But I love the way this flies. I love the way it handles. And it was kind of an unexpected quad for me. And I've run into some Chinese bind and flies in the past several years that I plugged in. They smoked on the first time, or they had issues, or I had to actually fix things, you know, because hey, we're talking about honest reviews here. And this one was one of those quads that I set up in about 5 to 10 minutes, set up my modes and switches, and I'm out here doing this already and flying through gaps for the first time and getting lucky. This is what it's all about right here. So I can recommend this quad. I think you guys would definitely find some value in this one, and this one might stay in my collection. This one's a really nice quad, especially with these Cyclone 5051s. I think it's a really good pair up, and you get a nice flight time over 3 minutes with those batteries. So definitely a win for me. I'd say 4.8 stars for this particular quad, plus the added benefit of night flying LEDs on here just make this a winner. Add a night owl on the quad if you want to make it a night flyer, and you could fly it in the dark. Not something I do, but hey. But that's about it for this review, guys. Thanks for watching this one, and going on our road trip with me. I'm Justin Davis. Check out the links below, and I'll try to put that night owl in there for you so you can check that out. Here we are out in Southern Oregon. We're at the West Coast Showdown. See you on the next one, guys. What a cool, super cool Night Flyer LED quad. Freestyle or racing. See you on the next one, guys.